The mayor, sometime after having engaged the services of a private investigator, brought their contract to council for ratification, and it was rejected. Reports from employees, the media, and the mayor's own testimony at the Civil Service Commission last month indicate that he continues to use the services of this investigation company, whose contract was not ratified by council. And if you'll turn to the third page of the emails from MRSC, when the council meets on Monday, it should also consider a resolution somewhat like the one regarding the public safety director position, stating that the contract with this private detective firm has not been authorized by city council and in fact was explicitly rejected by the council, and that the city is not liable for any payments under the contract made by the mayor without council authorization. Therefore, resolution, I'm assuming this would be 033? 033, yes. That's what I said. Okay. Whereas the mayor of the city of Pacific has presented to the city council a proposed agreement with Investigator Investigations LLC, and whereas the city council of the city of Pacific has disapproved the mayor's proposed contract with Investigator Investigations, and whereas the city council has at no time authorized entrance into the contract with Investigator Investigations or any other private investigation company, and whereas the mayor's own emails, the mayor's testimony to the Civil Service Commission, and reports from multiple city employees indicate that the mayor has employed and continues to employ a private investigation company to investigate city personnel. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Pacific hereby resolves that 1. The City of Pacific has at no time had a contract with Investigator Investigations LLC. 2. For the purposes of the city's employee privacy policy and compliance with any state or federal regulations, Investigator Investigations LLC is to be considered a private company with no contractual relationship to the City of Pacific. 3. All city employees shall be notified in writing that any investigation conducted by Investigator Investigations LLC is a personal investigation commissioned by the mayor and is not an official investigation of the City of Pacific. 4. The city shall notify Investigator Investigations by certified mail that it has at no time had a binding contract with the City of Pacific, and that the mayor has at no time had the authority to bind the city to such a contract without the approval of the city council. 5. The city shall direct Investigator Investigations to immediately cease any action taken under a purported agreement with the City of Pacific, and to immediately return to the City of Pacific any city documents provided under color of such an agreement.
Move to approve resolution number 2013-033.
Second.
It was moved and seconded that the council approve resolution 2013-033. Councilman Holden.
We need to get the message out to staff, and let them know that they have no contractual agreement with the city.
Councilmember Jones.
I have a little bit more of a concern than just that. The contractual issue is having a private investigation organization not authorized by the city, directed by the mayor to investigate employees or even ask pertinent information gathering of that is strictly in violation of confidentiality and issues. So I'm in favor of this contract, but I think the fact, if in fact the mayor is having them perform and forcing employees to answer questions, that there is a legal ramification, not just contractual. So I don't know if it's something that the attorney may need to have to look into to deal, not necessarily answer tonight, but I think it's something that we're going to have to deal with, the legalities of the employees are being put into a bind situation where they're being directed by the mayor to answer questions for somebody who doesn't have legal authority to perform those questions and gather that information.
Mr. Luke, anything to offer now?
The only item I could offer the staff is that they should be made aware that they need not answer the investigation questions if they so desire. The difficulty that comes about is the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city and may seek retaliation. And so, while we can keep them from getting confidential documents, it's going to place them in a difficult position.
Further remarks? that is actually something that, MRSC brought up, that, the mayor is apparently charged with responsibility for investigating whistleblower complaints, and of course, any employees refusing to cooperate would be doing so at peril to their job. That while he might not have a legal contract on behalf of the city, he is still legally their chief executive and could terminate them. Whether they then appeal that and win or not, there's a mixed record.
Councilor Geiger.
So, it's my understanding, I know that somebody has been contacted by this firm that we have not authorized a contract with, and doing it on behalf of the city, under the mayor, I mean, how can the mayor instruct somebody to work on behalf of the city when they're not employed by the city?
They may not know that.
So, maybe there should be written notification, because I knew just last week, somebody was questioned by this firm.
So, I have a question, and I think it's probably, well, I'll look to Councilmember Putnam more than for Mr. Luce. So therefore, number 3, that Intravia, is that how we're calling it, Intravia?
I copied it off their letterhead.
Okay.
I don't know how actually they pronounce it.
That this investigations company, it says is a personal investigation commissioned by the mayor. Is it most appropriate, Ken, to refer that as a personal investigation commissioned by the mayor, or a personal investigation commissioned by Cy Sun? Does he have the authority as mayor to convene an investigation?
I believe he does.
He does? Okay. So it's most appropriate to refer to his title, not him personally?
I would think so, yes.
Okay. So in that light, is the term personal investigation the best phrase to use?
I would suggest that it be changed from a personal investigation to an investigation and eliminate the word personal. Under item 3.
Sorry.
That's what I get for bringing so many.
Betty, I've got one for you. Thanks. If I wasn't sharing tonight, I'd make that as a motion, but.
I would actually, propose that. I was waiting to hear if there are any other proposed, suggestions, but I would certainly make a motion to make that amendment.
Councilmember Putnam has moved to strike the
Second.
word personal from item number 3 to therefore, and Councilmember Jones has seconded that. Councilmember Putnam, speak to your motion.
Any clarifications, quite welcome. This is drafted in 5 minutes, on the train, so.
Well, Councilmember Jones.
State the legal word.
Further remarks from council, a motion to amend?
I move to amend it to make it official, to change, delete the word personal and add it in at
Already have
the A, to make it and.
Councilmember Putnam already beat you to it, but he agrees with you. Comments from the audience?
Don't want to be on camera.
That's still one of the cases.
Jean Fancher, 37248 55th Avenue South, West Hill. Is it proper to add the word unauthorized investigation? Because can an investigator work without the authority of a contract? Whether the mayor you can say, let's do the investigation, but if you don't authorize the contract, could that be a word inserted, the Second Amendment? It's my understanding that it should be clear to him that without your compliance and agreement, it's basically unauthorized. Even though he has the authority, should he not get prior authorization before starting an investigation?
That's where I'm putting my head.
MRSC said that was a bit of a murky area, but if the mayor is supposed to be in charge of investigating whistleblower complaints and chooses out of the goodness of his heart to pay for a private investigator out of his own pocket in in, conducting his duties, he can do so. They're not official city investigators, they're employed by the mayor, but, he does have authority to do that. They think. I just, the first sentence here is, as with many questions coming from Pacific these days, this presents some novel issues for which there is no legal authority, and for which I don't have certain answers. So, we've been providing great, novelty value to the, researchers at MRSCSD.
Further comments from, we only get one shot. Further comments from council on the motion to amend. Katie, did I see your hand?
Once you add and delete words, could you reread the whole thing over for me, please?
Sure, we'll do
Thank
that.
you.
Further comments from council on the motion to amend? If anybody's forgotten, the motion is to strike the word personal, in the now therefore number 3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. The motion for the question before the council is a motion by Councilmember Holsey, seconded by Councilmember Jones, to approve resolution 2013-033 as amended by council. Remaining council remarks. Comments from the audience. Councilmember Putnam would be happy to read the resolution.
Do we want all the whereas again, or just the, therefore?
Both.
Just as written.
All right. Whereas the mayor of the city of Pacific has presented to the city council a proposed agreement with Intravia Investigations LLC. And whereas the city council of the city of Pacific has disapproved the mayor's proposed contract with Intravia Investigations LLC. And whereas the city council of the city of Pacific has at no time authorized entrance into a contract with Intravia Investigations LLC or any other private investigation company. And whereas the mayor's own emails, the mayor's testimony to the Civil Service Commission, and reports from multiple city employees indicate that the mayor has employed and continues to employ a private investigation company to investigate city personnel. Now, therefore, the city council of the city of Pacific hereby resolves that, 1, the city of Pacific has at no time had a contract with Intravia Investigations LLC. 2, for the purposes of the city's employee privacy policy and compliance with any state or federal regulations, Intravia Investigations is to be considered a private company with no contractual relationship to the city of Pacific. 3, all city employees shall be notified in writing that any investigation conducted by Intravia Investigations LLC is an investigation commissioned by the mayor and is not an official investigation of the city of Pacific. 4, the city shall notify Intravia Investigations by certified mail that it has at no time had a binding contract with the city of Pacific, and that the mayor has at no time had the authority to bind the city to such a contract without the approval of the city council. 5, the city shall direct Intravia Investigations to immediately cease any action taken under any purported agreement with the city of Pacific, and to immediately return to the city of Pacific any city documents provided under the color of such an agreement.
Any comments from the audience, now that you heard it again? Seeing none. Remaining council remarks? Question before the council is a motion by Councilmember Holsey, seconded by Councilmember Jones, to approve resolution 2013-033 as amended. Roll call to council, please.
Gary Halsey,
Aye.
John Jones,
Aye.
Ian Dyer. Aye. James McCann.
Aye.
Rob Putnam.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, item number G, media releases. Councilmember Putnam, you're on a roll.
All righty, media releases. As I mentioned earlier, the mayor has given extensive media releases, comments, interviews, etc. on pressing city issues on matters that he has not provided the city council with any information whatsoever. We've, for example, never been notified of a posting for an interim public safety director. We've never been notified of applications received for an interim public safety director. We've never been notified of the hiring of an interim public safety director. We've never been notified that hiring has apparently fallen through. We've never been notified that city employees are being investigated by a private investigating company that does not have a contract with the city, et cetera, et cetera. The city has an existing policy on contact with the news media that says, the mayor or designated department heads shall be responsible for all official contacts with the news media, including answering of questions from the media. The mayor may designate specific employees to give out procedural, factual, or historical information on particular subjects. Employees must notify the mayor immediately if they have been contacted by the media regarding a city issue. The City of Pacific Police Department shall designate a public information officer in regards to police matters. This designee shall be responsible for all contact with the media and shall advise and provide the mayor with an appropriate release statement. Whereas the City Council has a duty to provide legislative oversight on the implementation of city policy, and whereas City Policy 200-009, Contact with the News Media, establishes formal controls for all official media releases on behalf of the City of Pacific, and whereas the release of official city statements to the media produces citizen and media inquiries to council members related to the council's multiple roles of establishing city policy, appropriating city budgets, and overseeing the implementation of both policy and budget. And whereas media releases on behalf of the city constitute public records subject to retention requirements and public disclosure. And whereas the mayor has expressed concern that his statements as presented in the media should not be believed by council as reproduced there. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Pacific, Washington does resolve that. The policy that I mentioned earlier is amended as follows, adding after the existing language. To facilitate legislative oversight and transparency in city government, any press release or other written media statement issued by any city employee or officer on behalf of the City of Pacific shall be provided contemporaneously to all members of the City Council, indicating to whom the press release or statement was issued. All press releases or other written media statements on behalf of the City of Pacific shall be posted prominently within City Hall in an area open to public inspection and shall be incorporated into the council packet of the next City Council meeting or workshop. The requirements of this policy shall not apply to personal statements or releases of individuals not acting on behalf of the City of Pacific, provided such personal statements or releases are not produced or disseminated using city equipment, in parentheses, computers, email, printers, fax, do not bear the City of Pacific logo or letterhead, and do not purport to be official communications of the City of Pacific. In short, if you're going to send a release to the media, you're going to give it to the City Council, and you're going to give it to the citizens of the city.
I move to approve resolution number 2013, I believe the number would be 034.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second is the council to approve what we will now label resolution 2013-034. Councilmember Halsey, speak to your motion.
I think it's appropriate. This doesn't apply to interviews by the press of individual council persons as to their opinion, but it would apply to all city policy.
Councilmember Jones. Remarks from council. I have a question. One, two, three, four, the fifth whereas, the last one before the now therefore. It's a pretty bold statement. I think it's appropriate to
that the mayor has said,
justify that statement for the record before we adopt it.
I asked the mayor a question about his position on a situation with the Civil Service Commission, and I referred him to his statement in the Auburn Reporter, and he said that I should not believe everything that's in the paper, to which I replied that since he has not chosen to communicate anything to me, why should I not believe what he has chosen to commit in writing to the newspaper? Seems to me that if he is making public statements in writing on behalf of the city, that City Council should be entitled to rely upon them. And that if he's concerned they're being taken out of context, he could solve that by providing the context himself before the newspaper publishes it.
Further remarks? Councilmember Jones.
I'm just wondering whether that whereas should be stricken for the content of, not slander, but leaning against the specific mayor's statements, but in general, we cover the whole structure of the policy where, other than that, non-directly. I don't know, Mr. Luce.
I would rather attack the problem than not the person. person.
Okay, then I would, move to strike from my whereas, the final whereas, in which the mayor expressed doubt as to the reproduction of the quotes in the media.
So move, is there a second?
Second.
I'll give it to Councilmember Halsey. Councilmember Putnam, speak to your motion.
It's not truly necessary, other than it was what actually prompted the motion, so I'm happy to delete it. The, content of policy is what matters.
Councilmember Halsey,
So that's the behavior, not the person.
further remarks from council? Councilmember Guyer.
I have just a question.
This is about the motion to amend. For the larger.
The larger, no, okay.
I'll call on you first when we get back to it. I think the point, good amendment points don't, I think, well. Comments from the audience on the motion to amend? Ron?
Dwayne Grass, 122 Third Avenue Northwest, Pacific. Does this motion apply to the mayor when he makes comments in interviews, such as when he called all the speakers that ever come to this podium racist? Does he have to give you a report ahead of time or afterwards telling you that he felt like we're all racist?
And Councilmember Putnam, I believe, right?
No, this, the existing policy confines itself to, official city, releases. It does include answering questions from the media, but typically that has not been applied to interviews. It's more in the case of, press releases or written response to media comments. I wouldn't expect him to do a live interview and pre-file all his answers with the council.
So it's only for things that are pre-filed. So when he makes comments like that, he should not have to come back and tell you that he's going out as a representative of the city of Pacific and calling people racist? Because that's what I heard in that interview. I think it was on Channel 5. I might be wrong. But he effectively called all the speakers that ever come before him that don't agree with his policies racist. So that,
Realistically,
as the mayor of the city, he just said that.
realistically, he, I doubt, has a running transcript of his live comments and probably would not give us, verbatim summary of what he had said anyway, so I don't think it would apply.
The resolution directly deals with city policy. It doesn't and can't deal with personal opinions or feelings.
So that's considered his personal opinion when he calls us all racist. He's not speaking as the mayor of the city of Pacific.
He's speaking as a person, not the official policy of the city by any means.
Okay, thank you.
Further remarks from the audience on the motion to amend? Seeing none, question before the council is a motion by Councilmember Putnam, seconded by Councilmember Halsey, to strike the last whereas prior to the now therefore. The whereas reads, whereas the mayor has expressed concern that his statements as presented in media should not be believed by council as they produced there. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion carries. The question before the council is the motion by Councilmember Halsey, seconded by Councilmember Jones, to approve resolution 2013-034 as amended. Councilmember Guyer.
Well, I'm just looking at the policy, and I guess, it was a policy that we had in place, and it's the City of Pacific Police Department that designates a PIO, correct?
In regards to police matters, yes.
So the issue that we were dealing with last week, is that a police matter?
No, it's not.
Not really?
It's, I believe, more of a personnel matter.
Okay. Because I felt sorry for our PIO that had
Yes,
to
she was
deal
clearly
with all
cut
the
out of the
phone
loop,
calls.
yeah, and she was ordered not to respond.
And ordered not to respond when we have it designated, and that's who the media is gonna contact, because it was a police officer. Or it was a police matter, not a police officer, a police matter. And so, for her to take, I don't know, I just thought she was unfairly treated based on her position as a designated person from the police department. And I guess there isn't any way we can really address it.
Further remarks? Comments from the audience on the resolution as amended? Question before the council is a motion by Councilmember Halsey, second by Councilmember Jones, to approve resolution 2013-034 as amended. Roll call of council, please.
John Jones,
Aye.
Leanne Dyer,
Aye.
James McDaniel,
Aye.
Josh Putnam.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Council will be reminded that we removed item number B, the approval of minutes from March 25, 2013. The only item in the consent agenda now is approval of payroll and claim vouchers. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any remarks? Comments from the audience? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The motion carries. The consent agenda as amended is approved. We now have 2 items scheduled under executive session.
Before we go there, I would move to suspend council rules, because I would like to request that the acting clerk provide us with a copy of the mayor's email, ordering her not to give computer access to the lieutenant and chief.
It's been moved to suspend council rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to suspend is debatable?
Motion to suspend is not debatable, as I would call it.
Mr. Ray, find you here first. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable, is not amendable, and it takes a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The motion carries. The rules are suspended. Councilmember Halsey?
I would like to make a motion to request the acting clerk to forward to the council members a copy of the email ordering her not to give the lieutenant and chief computer access, and if badges, et cetera.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the council request that the acting city clerk forward to the council the email from the mayor referencing an order to not provide equipment to the 2 lieutenant police officers. Councilmember Halsey, please your motion.
I think that it's important that we keep the city communications transparent, and at least council then would have a better understanding of the email that was sent.
Councilmember Jones?
I'm gonna second it.
Councilmember Marsh? Comments from the audience?
I have 2 comments. Everything 366 White River Drive, first comment is, are the public, can you read that email to us so that we can understand and know what it is that he is saying? And 2, is she going to get any repercussions from the mayor for following through with your order? She's stuck between a rock and a hard spot, and that's hard for her.
So I'll do my best to answer I'll interpret your first question. Can members of the public get a hold of that?
Can you read it to us, or?
I don't think we'll get it tonight.
Right.
So perhaps we could read it aloud to the next meeting.
I'd like to see what his mind frame is as well.
The other thing that I'll remind everybody is that all communications by public officials are subject to public disclosure. And any person can request any written document or written communication, provided it's not exempt under certain very specific exceptions under that law, and that's disclosable.
Okay. And the second part?
It's a great question.
We have instructed the clerk on how to respond.
I'd hate to see her lose her job over something that he would get all hot and fired up about.
There's many things that we have no control over, and we discussed the situation.
the referenced email from the mayor to the acting city clerk directing her to not provide equipment and access to the two reinstated police officers. Did I get that right?
That's correct,
Okay.
and it requires voice vote.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're now back to.
Are we still suspending the rules?
I was just about to say we weren't, so we still are.
Okay, one issue was brought to my attention earlier, and there was no opportunity time. Now that we've suspended the rules, I feel I have to discuss it. It has come to my attention the possibility that a person who was not confirmed as city clerk has been directed to report to work, or has been at work, and I find that disconcerting that an unauthorized and non-hired person is going to work as the city clerk by direction of the mayor and have access to city and employee records without legal authorization to do so. So, I just wanted to bring it up to attention, so the council is aware of what I heard, the city attorney is aware of that issue, because I'm concerned that this amounts to a illegal access to city property and information.
Anything else before we go back under the rules?
Just one, item, something occurred to me.
Free for all, go for it.
Now that we've passed, 2013-034 on contact with the news media, when the clerk has time to find them, it would be, or if the mayor would like to provide them directly, his press releases regarding the hiring and unhiring of the supposed interim public safety director, which council has never been informed of other than reading it in the papers. Any press releases from the city in the past couple of weeks, if we could get those forwarded to council, I think that would be appreciated. So that we at least know what went on if we still don't know what's going on. That's all.
I was paying attention very, very close.
That was an informal request of the clerk, just following around the subject.
Okay. We will now go.
Did I understand your comment regarding the clerk that I advised the mayor of responsibilities and liability?
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now go back under Robert's Rules of Order. The next item on our agenda is item number 10, executive session. We have two scheduled tonight. The first one, and Ken, I'll do my best to describe them, you fill in where I have missed. The first one is an update on contract negotiations with the Public Works Clerical Union. It's an informational item for approximately 10 minutes with no action anticipated following. And the second item is regarding collective gardens, and remind me what part of collective gardens we get to go into.
We've been sued by,
Pacific Green.
Pacific Greens.
Okay, so that's a litigation matter.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's a 3-minute update with no action.
Correct.